The title, "She Dug a Tunnel into the Hillside, It Became Their Only Hope in the Freeze," captures a powerful tale of foresight, relentless determination, and human ingenuity in the face of nature's harshest trials. This narrative, often shared through dramatic storytelling channels focused on frontier life and survival, revolves around a woman sometimes named Clara, Abigail, or left as an unnamed widow who chooses to prepare in unconventional ways. While others dismiss her efforts as madness, in the rugged landscapes of the American West, such as the Black Hills of Dakota Territory or the high plains of Montana during the late 19th century, winters could turn deadly with little warning. Blizzards buried homes, temperatures plunged far below zero, and the wind howled like a living beast intent on claiming lives. Her story is not just about digging dirt. It is about defying doubt, understanding the land's subtle warnings, and creating a lifeline when the world above ground became a frozen tomb. Imagine the scene in late summer or early autumn, when the air still carried warmth and the hillsides bloomed with wild grasses. The woman lived in a modest cabin, perhaps a simple log structure with a root cellar, perched near a sloping hillside. Neighbors watched as she began her peculiar project, picking up a shovel or pickaxe and carving into the earth behind her home. Day after day, she hauled buckets of soil, her hands blistering and bleeding, her back aching from the constant bending in confined spaces. She was not building a mere hole for storage. She envisioned a tunnel, carefully engineered for airflow, stability, and connection, sometimes linking the cabin's hearth or cellar directly to a barn, or extending deeper into the hillside for a hidden chamber. The tunnel might stretch 20, 30, or even 40 feet, shored up with timber scavenged from the surroundings, wide enough for a person to crawl or walk hunched, and tall enough to allow basic movement without. Constant scraping against the ceiling. Why did she do it? The reasons woven into these tales vary slightly, but share a core of quiet wisdom. In some versions, she had lost her husband to a previous harsh season, leaving her to raise children or manage livestock alone. Grief sharpened her instincts. She observed nature closely, how animals burrowed deep for warmth, how the ground retained a steady temperature even as surface air chilled, how smoke from fires could be vented through long passages without choking the space. Others portray her as having survived an earlier, lung-freezing cold snap that killed surface dwellers while underground creatures endured. Prairie dogs sealing their burrows or birds fleeing early became omens she heeded, while townsfolk laughed. They called her crazy, the mole woman, or whispered that widowhood had unbalanced her mind. Men from the settlement stood at the edge of her property, shaking their heads as she disappeared into the dark mouth of the excavation, emerging covered in mud like some creature from folklore. Her labor was grueling and solitary. Each swing of the tool sent echoes through the soil. She removed rocks that threatened collapse, reinforced walls with wooden braces to prevent cave-ins, and planned the slope for drainage so melting snow or rain would not flood her work. In versions where the tunnel connected to the barn, the goal was practical survival. Access to animals for milking, feeding, or protection without battling waist-deep drifts or lethal winds. In hillside variants, she created a deeper sanctuary, a geothermal refuge, where the Earth's natural insulation kept temperatures stable around 50 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit, far warmer than the -60 air that could freeze lungs in minutes. She might have incorporated a clever venting system, sealing the main chimney above ground and routing smoke through the tunnel to avoid detection or heat loss. Some accounts describe her tearing apart the cabins. Fireplace in preparation, an act that scandalized onlookers who predicted she would freeze first. As autumn faded, the first frosts arrived like scouts for the invading army of winter. The woman stocked her tunnel and connected spaces with preserved food, blankets, fuel, and tools. She taught her family, perhaps young children or a sister, the importance of conserving heat, moving quietly, and trusting the earth. Neighbors continued their routines, chopping extra wood, banking their fires, and boasting about their sturdy homes. They pitied or mocked her, convinced that her foolish hole was a waste of time better spent on visible preparations. But the woman knew something deeper. Surface structures, no matter how well chinked with mud and moss, could not withstand prolonged, unrelenting cold, combined with blizzards that piled snow higher than rooftops. Winds could strip heat from walls in hours, and once snow-buried doors and windows, escape or resupply became impossible. Then the freeze came. In these stories, it strikes with biblical fury a deep freeze or killer blizzard. That descends rapidly, often in the winter of 1886, 1918, or a fictionalized harsh year. Temperatures plummet overnight. The air itself turns treacherous, inhaling too deeply risks frostbite in the lungs, killing livestock where they stand. Snow falls in blinding sheets, driven by gales that reshape the landscape into white dunes. Houses creak under the weight. Chimneys clog or backdraft, filling rooms with deadly smoke. Families huddle by dwindling fires, rationing food as supplies run low. Some attempt short treks to barns and never return, their bodies claimed by drifts or exhaustion. The woman and her loved ones, however, descend into the tunnel. The entrance, cleverly hidden or sealed from above, protects them from the wind's howl. Inside, the temperature holds steady. The earth acts as a blanket, radiating stored summer warmth. They move between cabin and barn or deeper chambers without. Exposure, tending animals, retrieving supplies, and maintaining a small, efficient fire whose smoke vents safely away. Days blur into a timeless ordeal. Above ground, the world is silent except for the wind's roar. Livestock perish in exposed shelters. Neighbors who once laughed now face desperation. Some knock on frozen doors that will not open, or dig futilely through snow, only to collapse from cold. In dramatic retellings, the woman hears faint cries or sees figures staggering in the whiteout, but venturing out means certain death. Her tunnel becomes more than shelter. It is a womb of life, preserving body heat, allowing movement, and sustaining hope. Children sleep in the stable warmth while she tends the fire, her hands no longer bleeding but calloused from earlier toil. The tunnel's design prevents carbon monoxide buildup, a silent killer in sealed spaces. Air flows naturally through the slope and vents, keeping the atmosphere breathable. They share stories to pass time, reinforcing family bonds amid the isolation. Each hour underground proves her vision. Preparation rooted in observation trumps bravado or tradition. As the storm rages for what feels like eternity, sometimes portrayed as weeks of unrelenting cold, the woman's foresight saves every last one. Livestock survive because she can reach the barns safely. Food stores last longer without spoilage in the cool depths. Health holds because hypothermia never takes hold. When the freeze finally breaks, with sunlight piercing the snow and temperatures climbing enough to dig out, the family emerges weakened but alive. Neighbors who survive emerge to a changed world. Frozen bodies in fields, collapsed roofs, and tales of loss. Many who doubted her now look upon the tunnel with new respect. Some apologize, others simply nod in silent acknowledgement. The woman does not gloat, her satisfaction lies in survival and the quiet knowledge that she listened when the land spoke. This story resonates because it embodies timeless truths about resilience. Digging the tunnel required physical endurance, but also mental fortitude against social pressure. In an era when women, especially widows, faced skepticism about their capabilities, her actions challenged norms. She relied on practical science, understanding soil mechanics, thermal mass, ventilation, long before formal education made such concepts common. The hillside itself becomes a character, unyielding at first, then a protector once conquered. The freeze represents any overwhelming crisis, be it literal winter, economic hardship, or personal loss where conventional solutions fail and unconventional preparation prevails. Her bleeding hands symbolize sacrifice, the stable warmth underground, redemption through effort. Expanding on the themes, consider the psychological journey. Initially, doubt creeps in even for her. Each shovelful of dirt weighs heavy with uncertainty. What if the tunnel collapses or proves useless? Neighbors' stares sting like the cold she anticipates. Yet persistence builds confidence. Every braced section, every tested vent, affirms her plan. Family members might question at first, but her calm explanations, drawing from observed animal behavior or past winters, win them over. The tunnel fosters ingenuity. Perhaps they improvise lamps from oil and cloth, or create sleeping platforms from scavenged wood. In the depths, fear transforms into camaraderie. Laughter echoes softly where wind cannot reach, preserving morale. Environmentally, The tale highlights harmony with nature rather than domination. The earth is not an enemy to be fought, but an ally to embrace. By burrowing, she mirrors indigenous knowledge and pioneer pragmatism often overlooked in romanticized histories. The stable 55-degree temperature underground illustrates basic geothermal principles. Soil insulates against extremes, retaining heat from warmer months. This contrasts sharply with above-ground cabins that lose heat rapidly through. Convection and radiation. Her venting system prevents the common tragedy of asphyxiation in sealed shelters, showing attention to detail that separates survival from tragedy. Socially, the narrative critiques conformity. Townsfolk represent the majority who follow familiar paths, stacking wood higher but never questioning deeper vulnerabilities. Her isolation in preparation mirrors how visionaries often stand apart, ridiculed until crisis validates them. Post-freeze, community dynamics shift. Perhaps aid flows her way, or she shares knowledge, turning mockery into mentorship. In broader historical context, such stories echo real accounts from the snow winter of 1880 to 81, or the brutal Dakota blizzards, where ingenuity like sod houses or dugouts meant the difference between life and death on the frontier. The emotional core lingers long after the tale ends. Relief upon emergence, gratitude for the simple acts of breathing warm air or touching livestock still alive. The woman, once seen as eccentric, becomes a quiet legend. Her children grow up with instilled values of observation, hard work, and self-reliance. The tunnel might remain as a root cellar or emergency shelter, a physical reminder of that season. In retellings, details amplify drama. Howling winds rattling the cabin above, while underground peace reigns. A near collapse during digging that tests her resolve, a child falling ill, only to recover in the stable environment. Ultimately, the story celebrates human adaptability. In an age of modern comforts, it reminds us that crises, climate events, disasters, personal challenges demand proactive thinking. Digging one's own tunnel might mean learning skills, building networks, or creating backups others dismiss. Her bleeding hands and muddy cheeks humanize her. She is no superhero, but an ordinary person choosing extraordinary effort. The freeze tests everyone, but only the prepared endure intact. Hope in this narrative is not passive wishing, but active. Creation carved inch by inch into unyielding earth until it becomes the sole path through darkness.